Hello everyone, hope you're doing well. It's time to go through some fun things. Obviously, over the last week, I was away. Even though I was doing like the dev server stuff, I preloaded a lot of it, and basically, I went to spend time with my father. I haven't seen my father in 5 years, mainly because of the pandemic stuff and also some other things, so I decided to prioritize time with him. Funnily enough, a lot of people didn't agree with this, it seems, or didn't know I was doing it, so I got a lot of interesting messages, some basically just asking me whether I was going to cover the economy stuff, and others basically just going after me for ignoring it. Even though, or ignoring it because I was, whatever, a shill or whatever it was. But no, it was basically down to the fact that I was spending time with family, which is much more important than a video game, and always will be. So it just is how it is. Today, we're going to go over the posts that Gaijin made and go through them and how sometimes the best idea as a company is to just shut up. Sometimes instead of constantly trying to adhere to, random changing landscapes and try and placate people, it's usually better just to shut up. Gaijin completely failed over the last week and a half. By the way, this is going to be one of those videos that people don't think I make. So if you're one of those guys who just generally has the mindset when it comes to me, you might as well just turn it off. But the simple fact is, when it came to Gaijin, they completely screwed up this situation in every single way, shape, or form. Because I don't know whether the PR team failed, I don't know whether they were just reacting on the fly to things, but everything was done wrong, which is quite impressive. Usually you see a few things done wrong from Gaijin's side of things, but now everything was done wrong. Right now they are basically paying penance and trying to get good graces of crazy people and others back on their side by doing these Q&As and things to try and improve the situation, but it's not going to. It's just going to keep fueling the fire. So let's go through it and what happened. Obviously, they added the economy changes in. These economy changes have been a set of changes which have been talked about for the last year and a half. There has actually been several economy changes which have been exactly like it in the past. The only difference is this time they decided to screw with premium vehicles. And this is a no-no, which is probably why you got the reaction that you got. Last year, in February of 2022, or January of 2022, and even previously before that, there was 2 votes that took place. One of them was to change the victory rate, so, basically making it so you didn't lose as much yourself for a defeat, and also you didn't gain as much yourself for a win, same with RP as well. And then another one was between, do you want a vehicle-based, a statistics-based kind of repair system and stuff like that, or do you want it to be rank and basically BR-based and nation-based? Both of these went for the different options from what we had before. They were the majority opinions at the time, and I would hazard to say are probably the majority of opinions nowadays. And they both passed. They had to do some revisals, which is what you always have to do when it comes to these things. If anybody's actually dealt with a democratic process before, there is the first draft of things never gets through. It's always third, fourth, fifth draft, and then eventually there's enough compromises so people start going through them. So that's basically what happened last year, and then slightly the year before. Then, over the last year, they've added in a bunch of incremental changes to get towards that system. this meant that certain vehicles went up in repair cost, and also their modifiers went up to line them up with more vehicles at their rank and nation, and also other nations and others had their repair costs go down and also their modifiers go down, to once again try and bring them in line. The whole idea of this system is to make vehicles more balanced across the game at certain ranks, which is why if you actually read some of the quote-unquote demands of general people of the idea of trying to normalize the amount of research and also the amount of repair costs and also rewards for vehicles, that they want that put in, well, that's what this system does. It's just, I don't know, people don't read. So that happened. And then they put in, I think this was the third or fourth time they've done the revising of the economy, and then they reverted it because of backlash, because the minority of people who voted against these changes a year ago started getting pissy. And they've been pissy for about a year now because of the simple fact that the vote went against what they wanted. And there is also people who are unhappy with the changes who voted for it. So you have a lot of vocal people who were annoyed, which is fair. It's just how this stuff goes. And Gaijin did exactly the wrong thing. They reverted all of the changes and said, instead of just straight up apologizing, which would have been fine, they had to throw in certain lines which could be easy used to clickbait by either CCs or just by general community members to force people against them. So these lines were stuff such as, we didn't explain it properly, or, or the simple fact that we decided to cancel them because of the fact that, we didn't word it properly, which basically means if you are of the other side and you are of a negative opinion, you take this and you go, okay, so they're calling me dumb, and I'm going to get annoyed because they're calling me dumb. And this is a problem that Gaijin has had a lot when it comes to their statements, when it comes to economy stuff. They have this really bad way of addressing things, which basically says, we poorly explained it. But people always take that as, instead of we poorly explained it, they take it as, oh, I'm too dumb to understand it. So they get annoyed. And this happens every time. I'm so bored of it. And then they put in, the whole thing about, well, we're just trying to make War Thunder better and better for the players and yada, yada, yada. But the people that you're dealing with, like the certain subset of people who are annoyed about this change and will push it through, are not people who respond to that because they don't care, because they're already in negative headspaces. So throwing stuff like that in just ends up being a dagger in the shoulder. So you just, I can't believe like the PR department or lack thereof or whatever at Gaijin, because I know that they have some PR guys there. I know one of the dudes who's been there for a long time. I can't believe they would put out stuff like this, because you are, first of all, just adding fuel to the fire. So they went back on the economy changes, which if they felt was right, they did it. That's all good. And then what they did was they put out the post that we just talked about. So they ignited the flame. They sparked with the retraction and then ignited the flame with the revising the economy post. Basically calling people dumb and also at the same time saying, all of the standard PR speak that you hear. So of course, instead of doing what they thought it would do, which is quell the flames, what this ended up doing is just rising them, because it always does every time, because you've now placated the vocal minority of really annoyed people. So now they're going to go, hey, they're listening to us. All right, hit them in the face again. Keep going. Bang, 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 bang. Maybe we can get more out of this. Maybe they now listen. Bang, 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 bang. Set up the flamethrower. Let's go. And then, on the same day, your boy Kirill. Now, Kirill Yudintsev is the CCO or creative director of Gaijin. He's one of the twins who runs the company. You've got Anton Yudintsev, who's the CEO. He's usually the guy who does the interviews. Kirill is the creative director. Now, Kirill has actually done Q&As in the past, and generally they've been very good. Not everybody agrees with his opinions about things, but that's fine, because basically you're coming from two different sides. Kirill Yudintsev, being the creative director of Gaijin, cares about the business side of the company, right? Just like the CEOs does, just like all of the management at Gaijin does. So their opinions on things are going to be based from the company side of the equation. If you are trying to get them to explain to you the individual player's experience, you are not going to be able to, because the individual player's experience is completely different depending on which players you're looking at and also their emotions at the time. So they have to average out these things to try and make it so it appeals to the largest demographic of people, but also doesn't annoy a ton of people at the same time, so their business can keep going. So, on the 19th of May, they do the revising the economy thing as we talked about. A negative thing, but it wasn't, terrible. It just ignited the flame. And then they put out this bloody post about how progression and economy is built in free-to-play games and War Thunder in particular. So this post here, right, I've actually gone through all of these things in the past, over the last few years, even going back 6 or 7 years, how free-to-play games work, how they're designed, how they make money. It basically means the barrier of entry is incredibly low. The vast majority of people who play the games never actually pay a cent to them, and the games are run off a system where you have a very minor percentage of people who actually afford the whole system for everybody else. And that's just how, the system works. Whether it's a mobile game, whether it's a, standard game for PC or console, that is just the simple economics of the matter. The problem, though, is not that. Not everybody knows that, but it's common knowledge, at least if you want to find it. There's several podcasts about this, even like the Wargaming guys have talked about this. Everything is designed around that model because that's the model that has worked. The reason why War Thunder exists is because of the free-to-play model. War Thunder could not exist and would not have existed back in the day if they had gone the route of a paid model. It just wouldn't be the game it was today, because it gives you a ton of flexibility in what you can create while also still creating an income. You can provide a ton of stuff for free, such as, I think in the next update, there's over 30 vehicles which are going to be free, that anybody can research, and then there's like 4 premiums or something, and then that's not including all the updated stuff, none of the cockpits, none of the other changes. But that's what, you can do in a free-to-play model, where with a paid model, you can't do that. Instead, you have to do bundles, you have to do other things, you have to do expansions, which you're hoping that people will pay for. And, if you haven't noticed, especially with MMOs recently, a lot of them are going free-to-play because there's a ton of people who don't want to pay for anything nowadays. So he does this post talking about how free-to-play stuff works, which, if you look at it on the surface, it's completely fine. If you're trying to talk to like a player like me, this post is completely fine. But the people you are addressing are not me, or people like me, because generally we're alright with the changes and we understand how the whole system works, right? Voted for them in the first place and all this. You are dealing with a set of people who are already annoyed and have been annoyed for a year and a half about the changes that have been brought in because they are part of the minority that lost, or people who have become disenfranchised over the time. So a post like this smacks of, why are you trying to tell me how this works? Why are you acting like I am dumb? Right? So, and if I'm, as I said, if I'm a person like me, where I'm not really bothered about the economy changes in that way, and also don't have, issues when it comes to the game economy or anything like that, never had issues of research or sell, there's stuff like this, it doesn't matter to me. Right, even back in the day when I didn't have premium, even back in the day when, I wasn't part of the partnership program. I never had issues with these things because I have different goals to different people. But if you are trying to communicate with the individuals who are annoyed already, you do not do this. You don't. You don't do all of this on a single day, fanning the flames of the fire, and just keep battering over and over and over again on how, this stuff works, right? You just don't do it. Because if you do that, guess what? So we talked about it. You've sparked it, then you've ignited it, and now you've just added a ton of kindling to it for some reason. And guess what? People looked at this and went, oh, they're telling us that this is how this goes and how this stuff goes. Yeah, well, fuck you. It doesn't matter. I don't care about your business. I care about the game. I saw plenty of people say stuff like that. I don't care if Gaijin fails. I just like War Thunder. Not understanding the relationship between them. The people that you're dealing with here are not going to resonate with a post like this, right? Because it sounds like you are explaining to them like simple mathematics and basic things. And I can get away with it because if my stuff, like if I don't cater to that community, which I don't, right, then it doesn't really matter to me. And also at the same time, I just speak my mind when it comes to these things because that's something that will never be taken away from me. But when you're in a business and when you're in like an economical standpoint, when you're looking at it from that point, you have to like placate different people at the same time, which is why PR is kind of important for these things. So this post comes out. Guess what? It doesn't do. I don't know what it was supposed to do. A lot of people took away from it, where it was like, well, if you were, because one thing we'll get into is the Steam reviewing, right? But one thing that a lot of people took away from this was, oh well, if we don't do what Gaijin says, they're gonna kill War Thunder because of how certain parts of it have been written. And welcome to the set of people you're dealing with. They believe that if they keep going, then War Thunder is just gonna they're just gonna kill switch it, which is obviously not gonna happen. Funnily enough, oh my god, imagine a company destroying their major product that is probably the most profitable out of all of theirs, and then just doing it out of spite because of a slight pushback from a minority of people. It's just nuts. But anyway, so they talk about the Steam review thing. Now, the Steam review thing was never going to be an issue. This is why I talked about the idea that they responded to this stuff way too quickly and way too personally, which is why I'm wondering, was their PR department asleep? What was going on? Steam reviews, the way that they work and the way that Valve actually responds to Steam reviews is if they see a massive influx of certain reviews, they then cut them out. Because it's just like what Rotten Tomatoes does, it's just what IMDb does, it's just what pretty much every other platform does, because of the simple fact that brigading is a thing and it can affect the overall look of a product because of a specific change, or even not to do with that, because of a specific individual kind of went after them. Remember when the invasion of Ukraine started by Russia? There was a lot of people who started basically mass bombarding Gaijin and other companies in the belief that they are Russian companies and therefore they should be taken down. Which is why the comments or the chats in game were taken down. That's why all of that talk was just annihilated pretty quickly by Gaijin, because you could see what was rolling in. The same thing happens here, but for a different reason. And because of that, because it's seen as an alternate reason to basically get annoyed at the game. People were literally leaving recipes for negative reviews and things because funny memes. But of course they're going to get removed or they're going to get hidden. And then you get a lot of people who are annoyed at that, but it's just how automated systems work. I don't know how else to put it. It's just like on YouTube, where if I get a person who comments the same thing every time on a bunch of videos, then they get hit by the spam filter because that's what it's designed to do. So for some reason, It's for some reason in this article by Kirill, they talk about the free-to-play model, which, as I said, from my point of view is fine, but if you're trying to placate people, basically you're just calling them dumb because you're saying you don't understand this is how this works, this is how we do everything, and as I said, depending on who you're chatting to, that's good or bad. So you don't want to do a statement like that at this time. And then when it comes to the Steam review thing, you've basically told the people who are doing this, hey, this is actually affecting something, so please don't do this. Now, if you've been on the internet for 3 seconds, you will realize that telling somebody to not do something means that you're going to get a lot of people, maybe not the same people, depending on their honesty level, but you'll get a lot of people who go, oh, this does affect things? All right, let's do it more. And that's exactly what happened. Over the next day or two, the review bombing increased. And now it's all hidden, depending on what the general preferences you have on Steam, because of Steam's automated system. If they hadn't made this article, it would have been a lot better. And it doesn't matter about rewording. It doesn't matter about anything. This article was a bad article to make at the time, because you basically said, yes, you guys have power. Yes, you are affecting stuff. If you don't stop, something may happen, like kind of the whole hidden threats kind of thing. And then also, hey, dum-dum, here's how all this stuff worked. It was just a really bad play. So whoever okayed that, whatever team okayed that, you need to really rethink how you deal with this stuff, right? And then we had a weekend. So they released this on a Friday. So that meant that gave a bunch of people who either came off work or came off school or whatever the weekend to mull the whole thing over. So great, well, absolutely wonderful. You literally created a bonfire and then just left for a few days. Absolutely outstanding work. Well done, Gaijin. Jesus Christ. So then on the 23rd, you get the economy revision. Now, this post is exactly the same as the first post. And I know you don't believe me, but that's fine. Go read them both side to side. They're exactly the same. There's one difference, and it's how they're worded. And this is the thing that I've been trying to say for the longest time, and it sucks. I massively dislike it. I wish the world wasn't like this. I really, really don't like the whole thing. And it is the simple fact that nowadays, especially when it comes to the internet, it is not what is true or what you are saying that is important. It is how you are saying it and how it is interpreted. Because just go read the economy revision on the 23rd of May 2023, and then on the 19th of May, go read revising the economy. If you have a look at both of these posts, they give you exactly the same information, and the only difference is in the revising one, you have a survey which people can throw in. So it's simple as that, right? And the only difference is, in the economy revision one, they got on their knees and begged, which is what many people wanted. They wanted Gaijin to beg, to basically say, hey, you guys do matter. We should listen to you. We should, make our decisions based on you and your feedback, and then go from there. They apologized several times when it comes to this thing. And yeah, this could have easily been just the first post, and we didn't have to have this rigmarole of ridiculousness. But also, it shows a real issue right now in the community, right? And the issue, as I said, is not what's actually said anymore. What is said is completely pointless. It is how it's interpreted, and also how it is said, which is now more important. They could have brought in these economy changes without telling anybody, without showing any numbers, without doing anything like that, over an update, and there would have been no rigmarole at all. People would just not have noticed. And then the opposite can happen, which is what happened here, where you had the first set of economy changes, then the updated economy changes, then the feedback of the economy changes, then the other feedback of the economy changes, the implementation of them, the removal of them, and now 3 separate posts, which pretty much say, or at least 2 of them, say exactly the same thing. So you had this whole system, which gave people, from the start to the end, which basically lasted 2 to 3 weeks to a month, it gave everybody the ability who wanted to, ammunition to just go nuts. Which is why this was just terribly done by Gaijin. I've never seen a Gaijin ever do anything like this. It was just horrific, from start to finish. I don't know who decided to do any of this. I don't know who sat down when it came to that company and went, okay, this is how we're going to structure things. We're going to do full transparency on everything that we do. But not full transparency. We're just going to say that we do full transparency because we can't actually show them all the figures. All they had to do was say, we're bringing in economy changes. Here is the average difference between repair costs and also reward changes. And this is the ratio between them and how it's going to affect them positively or negatively. That's it. All the rest, they could have just implemented and nobody would have noticed. But for some reason, they just did this whole, fortnight masquerade and basically gave people the ammunition to create something which was absolutely insane, even from its beginning. But that's a story for another time. Probably tomorrow. As always, I hope you have a wonderful day. And I'll see you next time. I'd just like to thank Millie Draper, Juan the Panda, Nick R. Kupila, Carrion Crow, Gus Irenicus, Pyman, Merciless Reaper, Orange Tail, Teddy, Daniel Stanton, Moxie B. Young, Peter Grayling, Jerry Provolt, Bareen, Alan Hacker, Sem Arslan, Uncle Bean, Derek R., and Lafouche for supporting the channel.